What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to the channel. I am Melanin Mike, and today we're going to be talking about Atlanta versus Dave. Atlanta made by Donald Glover and Dave made by Lil Dicky, Dave Burd. Wow, I'm surprised I actually remembered his actual name. But those two shows are very similar, and recently Donald Glover, his attention was brought to the fact that people were saying that Dave is on par with Atlanta. So I think it's an interesting conversation, so let's get into it. So I went to pull up the tweets when he was talking about this specific situation, and you know, Donald Glover, he deleted all his tweets, so there's really nothing here to see. But thanks to the miracle of the internet, I was able to find where he was actually talking about this situation. Thank God for screenshots. So Donald Glover said, and just for the record, I'm watching y'all saying Dave is on par like y'all forgot what we did. No disrespect. Pretty nice tweet, pretty like humble tweet, not like taking a full jab at Lil Dicky and what he has going on. And you also have Donald Glover saying, we got black people over here debating which is better and I'm the sellout. And that's going to say that a lot of people are also calling him a sellout for, I really don't understand how you can see Donald Glover as a sellout. I've followed his whole career since he started on YouTube and then moved to community. I've followed his whole career, and if anything, you could probably call him a sellout earlier for being on a show that wasn't watched by black people at all. But personally, I love community, and I still, either way, that is the only scenario I could see anybody calling him a sellout. But either way, I still personally don't see it at all, and I think it's a stupid argument. I mean, look at all the stuff he gave us, bro. He gave us This Is America. He gave us Awaken My Love, bro. Like, dude has been with us the whole time, and he was in The Lion King, bro. Mans was Simba, and y'all still calling this man a sellout? Get out. I don't understand who's calling him that, but y'all need to stop it and get some help. And also, just to add to that like sellout conversation, which I think is a whole video for another day, but I personally don't see it, so I don't think it's worth my time even making a whole video about it. But the man is so meticulous with his craft. Like, he is very picky about what project he takes on and like what he's a part of. Like, he is aware of himself and his brand, so he doesn't put himself in things that would, I don't know, cause people to even consider him a sellout. But here we still are in this conversation, so that really doesn't ring true to me of him being a sellout. He knows who he is, he knows who his audience is, his fan base, and for him to like just switch turns and make Atlanta, well, it was a dream come true, like, for a lot of people, because we know how good he is at writing, we know how good he is at acting, we know that he's a funny person. Like, this is the culmination of all his stuff, and it relates to music, which he's also passionate about. So I just don't get that conversation. Moving on. So with all that being said, this produced the question of, is Dave on par with Atlanta? And I'm gonna be completely honest, I have thought about this as well. It's just like a natural human instinct where you see two things are both so similar, and you just feel like sometimes you need to compare them. And I just want to say that these two things don't really need to be compared. They're both great shows. I personally have watched both of these shows multiple times. I watched Atlanta at least 3 or 4 times completely through, because I mean, there's only 2 seasons right now. We're waiting on a third. And I've watched Dave. I watched the second season. I watched the second season of Dave once, and I watched the first season of Dave twice. So I've seen all of this stuff before. So I think that I can give a pretty good kind of non-biased opinion on the situation. So here we are. And a little bit of background, if you guys don't know the show or haven't watched it or anything, both shows center around up-and-coming rappers. With Atlanta is Paperboy, played by Brian Tyree Henry, and for Dave, it's gonna be Dave. He plays an up-and-coming rapper in Los Angeles. And as for Donald Glover's part in Atlanta, he plays Paperboy's manager, even though he has pretty much no experience. He's essentially homeless, and he has a baby and a girlfriend, on and off girlfriend, right now in the show. So that's their situation. And in Dave Burd, Lil Dicky, is playing a rapper who is on the come up in California. So the two shows are set in completely different places, completely different situations, and they don't relate to each other. Man, it'd be so good if they did a crossover episode somehow. That would be amazing. I just thought about that. That'd be really amazing. But with this coming out, I don't know if that's going to happen. Maybe eventually it'll bring the two shows closer in time, but that would be like when the Flash met Arrow in Marvel shows on CW. That crossover would be amazing. But yeah, I think that'd be a good way to end this kind of conflict, even though Lil Dicky, to my knowledge, has not responded to any of this. So this is all just me talking and filling the void of this conversation, because they're not having any back and forth with each other, to my knowledge. So this is where we are. I feel like both of these shows are really both passion projects from both of the creators. If you didn't know, Donald Glover created Atlanta and Dave created Dave. And I feel like these are both labors of love, because Lil Dicky honestly hasn't put out an album since 2013. So how long is that? 8 years? He hasn't put out an album in 8 years. So I don't think music is really his priority. And I think if you watch his show, it really goes into his creative process and kind of explains to you why he hasn't been putting out music in a while, because his creative writing process is so like it's a lot. So if you want to know why he hasn't put out an album, that's why. And for Atlanta, it seems like Donald Glover just wanted something of his own, and he wanted to be different and like have a different type of show that really caters to his audience and this new audience that he's trying to reach. And I love them both. So this video is kind of hard for me to make, to actually compare and contrast and tell you which one's better. I don't like saying one is better than the other, because I do think they're both amazing shows and they both are important. And the funny thing is, I listen to both of these artists, and Lil Dicky only has his one project and the singles that he comes out with every here and there. And I listen to Childish Gambino a lot, or Donald Glover, as you can see, and I'm much more of a fan of him. So I'm sure my bias is going to come out in this video eventually, and you'll see which show I actually prefer. Let's look at the dates that both of the shows were released. Dave came out in March 4th, 2020. Atlanta came out in September 6th, 2016. With that, I believe that's where the comparisons and whatnot began. With the dates even being that far from each other, people were just like, okay, these are essentially like the same situations going on here, but one's based in California and one's based in Atlanta, but Dave just has more white people in it. And I think that's where some of the Atlanta fans see the difference between the two shows. And I think that kind of created some kind of pushback for Dave. But let's start with Atlanta. And let me be clear when I say this again, I do love both of these shows. I will sit here and watch both of them. Like, nothing's going to make me stop watching them unless they just do something really stupid and I just start falling out of love with the shows. But I do love both of these shows, and none of this goes as any hate towards either of them. But for me, Atlanta does edge out as the better show, just because I relate to it a little bit more, and it just feels like a more authentic experience. Donald Glover is actually from Georgia, and his brother, I think, actually helped write the show or produces it or something like that. So everything with the show just feels a little bit more authentic. It's more of a diverse cast and more of a cast of color. So I do appreciate Atlanta more, and I can't lie about that. Atlanta has some hilarious scenes, some that have been like passed down through memes and different videos on Twitter. I'm sure you've seen the jail scene from Atlanta at least once.
You remember old 12? Her hair was brown.
I remember. Honey, I was in a completely different space back then.
Nah, it's nice now. I like it. You always did like to switch it up.
I can move if you want.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was wilding back then. You remember Larry?
No, Larry.
Yeah, Larry. You used to come around with Kevin. He went to Southwest.
I think so. I remember Kevin. He was loud.
Larry came with us to the movies that time. I know you remember the movies. We used to get freaky in there all the time. Remember that?
Quiet.
Oh, don't act, girl. You know we used to get it in. Hey, where you stay at now? Hey, man, what's your problem, man?
No problem. I said, I can move if you want.
I ain't ask you to move, nigga. I'm trying to talk to my girl. You acting all weird and shit.
Yo, girl.
Yeah, man. Yo, this is my ex, Lisa, man. We used to talk back after my mom's kicked me out the house, you know.
My nigga, that's a man.
What? No, man, this is my ex.
Your ex-girlfriend a man. Why you think she in jail with the men? She'd be on the other side. Nigga, you gay.
Nah, I mean, she... So you think I'm gay?
No,
This nigga gay as hell.
Shut the hell up, man. Y'all niggas is tripping. I ain't gay. Y'all niggas fuck guys up in here anyway, man.
No, that ain't gay. That's just jail. You was on the outside fucking booty hole.
Sexuality is a spectrum. You can really do whatever you want.
Nah, that boy gay as hell.
I'm gonna stab your whole ass when we get upstairs to themselves, man. Nigga, sit down.
Johnny,
And Atlanta just also has great characters. I feel so attached to everyone in this show. And that's not to mention how this show has also catapulted the careers of some of the actors that you've seen in this show. Brian Tyree Henry has been everywhere. Like, he's literally been in everything since Atlanta like became what it has become. He was in the Joker, he was in King Kong, he's in the new Eternals movie. Like, his career is like catapulted due to this show, and I think that's just how good his performance was in Atlanta. And that was just projects I came with off the top of my head. Like, he's probably been in way more stuff since that, but like his career, I've just been seeing him in everything. That just goes to show how big of a statement impact this show has on the careers of all the actors involved. Lakeith Stanfield, what else do I need to say about him? And his career has been going crazy. He's been in Knives Out. I think he's in this new movie, The Harder They Fall. He's been in so many major projects, and Sorry to Bother You, which was his solo movie, which he led himself. So like, I think this show is just amazing in what it's done to people's careers. And lastly, like Zazie Beetz, she's been in a lot of things. She was in Deadpool, and I also think she's in The Harder They Fall. Her career is also taking off. All these people came, like, their careers like really just blew up from this show, and I think that alone is just a big statement in how impactful and crazy this show has been for their careers. But with 2 seasons in, we're just still waiting on the 3rd season. Drop it, Donald. Drop it. We know it's ready. Just drop it, bro. Please, please. It's been so long since we had another season. But I can't rush greatness. Whenever it comes out, I'll be appreciative of it if I can see it. So that is it for Atlanta. Now today, again, to compare these shows really sucks, but the content can't stop. So all the successes I just named for Atlanta, I think I didn't even mention probably the awards that Atlanta won. All those cannot be said yet for Dave, just because it's only been out maybe 2 years now. Like, it came out in 2020 and it's had the year 2021. I will say their turnaround on a season was very fast. I was not expecting another season of Dave to come out as fast as it did, on top of COVID happening. So that was just amazing. So good job to that team for getting a great season. Season 2 had its flaws, I'm not gonna lie, but it still felt like Dave, and it was still a good show. Like, the guest appearances that it had Doja Cat, it had several new up and coming artists. Man, it was a crazy season. It was pretty good. I liked it for the most part. This also goes for Atlanta. The cast is so cohesive and so good. The performances in both shows by people that you wouldn't expect. I mean, you expect Donald Glover to act his ass off because he is a great actor, but even when it comes to Dave, I think that's one thing that doesn't get appreciated enough when it comes to Dave. These all are people who aren't like great like they're not at least well-known actors. Like, I can't even think of someone in that show that was an actor before this show like started. I mean, granted, Taco from Odd Future, he's been in TV shows before. I think he was in Loiter Squad for a little bit, but that wasn't like a scripted TV show, I don't think. So I mean, he's the only one that I actually knew of as an actor like before this all started. I really feel like Gator steals the show every time he's on scene. I don't know what it is about this role for him. I don't know if it's just because he's playing himself, or just because this role just kind of like brings something out of him that makes him a good actor. But I feel like his career really has a big upside due to this show. And surprisingly, similar to Glover, I feel like the acting from Lil Dicky in this show is underappreciated. Like, Lil Dicky is not an actor. So I feel like his performance was really good. I feel like he really studied these lines and really made sure everything was on the mark for his show. But I do have to give the edge to Donald Glover in his show because I feel like he's not just playing himself, whereas I feel Lil Dicky is. Donald Glover is playing a whole different person, like a whole different character. Granted, if you're a big fan of him, you might struggle to see it that way, but he's playing someone who's struggling in this shitty situation, and he doesn't know what he's doing with these people. So I just think that his performance does hold a little bit more weight and it should maybe warrant a little bit more praise. And we can't forget the Teddy Perkins episode. Hold on, I'm talking about Dave. I need to get back on track. I feel like the strength of Dave is the relationships between the characters, and that just comes with them understanding each other. Like Dave, Lil Dicky trying to understand Gator, and for some reason Gator being his best friend through all this is just like, that cuts deep. Like that cuts deep to like educating people about mental illness. And with the other characters, his girlfriend, who's on and off girlfriend, they're going through things, people can relate to that. And just the pressures of becoming famous and dealing with the relationship that you're trying to hold on to, that was to me like the central point of the second season. He's starting to get a little bit of fame and he's starting to like lose himself to all this stuff, and he's losing friends and people are like not being the same, you know, like things won't be the same when you reach this new level of success. So I feel like that still warrants a bit of praise, just to me, not as much as Glover's. I don't know why. But in conclusion, I hate tribalism. I hate that these fan bases are pretty much going to war with each other just because the shows are similar, and we can't avoid that. The shows are going to be compared, and that's just the way it is. So we just have to deal with it. Although I do feel like this bodes really well for fans of both shows. If Donald Glover is seeing this as competition, that's gonna make him go even harder. I would hope that this brings out the I can't talk. I hope this brings out the competitive nature of Glover, and maybe this will even influence other artists to make their own shows, and we can have more shows than just these two to compare. Maybe we can have maybe more artists will want to do this in the future. And I know Lil Dicky is going to come with his best material, because I feel like this show is what he really wanted to do in his life, and probably not even be a rapper. I think if he could just do this show, I think he'd be content and probably never want to make music again, which would suck. But if it's what he wants to do and it makes him happy, shit, go for it. I also believe that this comparison is really strengthened by both of these shows being on the same network. If Atlanta for some reason was on, I don't know, Adult Swim, if it was on MTV, if it was on Comedy Central, if it was on any other platform, I feel like we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now, because there are so many similarities with this show, where it comes down to the plot, where it comes down to even just like the editing, the lighting, the pacing of the episodes. Like everything just feels similar to the other when it comes to these two shows. So a comparison was inevitable if it was on the same network. That's just my opinion when it comes to that. And just for my like final opinion in general, like I'd rather watch Atlanta just because it's 100% more relatable to me. Atlanta's 3 hours away. I've been to Atlanta a few times, so I know how people are up there, and I know that like how accurate the depictions of Atlanta were. And granted, when I watch Dave, it's just like a fantasy. I mean, I've never been to LA. I've lived in the Carolinas all my life, so from what I see on Dave is actually kind of how I picture Los Angeles being if you're trying to be an up and coming rapper. And I just like know Glover more as a person. Like I've been watching his career since I was in high school, like early high school. That's how long I've been watching his career. So I think that things like that just go into why I've leaned more towards Atlanta, and I love his music. So it's not a fair comparison in my eyes, because I'm biased as hell. Don't listen to me. But I will say, if I made it through season 2, if you made it through all of season 2 without turning that shit off of Dave, then I'd say you're probably a fan of that show too. If you know what I'm talking about. There are some weird ass episodes in Dave, and that's what I love about both of these shows. Both of these shows can just go left, so far left of where the story is, and have a great episode, and just the next episode just bring it right back. And I love that we have these two shows with two artists that seem to be in love with creating things like this. I am such a fan, and I hope they both keep doing this and keep being successful in what they're doing. So what do you guys think? Do you think Dave is on par with Atlanta? Do you even watch these shows? Let me know in the comments down below. I am Melanin Mike. I'll see you guys next time for wherever I'm recording. See you guys later. Goodbye.